Alright, good afternoon. About time to finish up my Bowls from Log series. This old girl right here is ready to turn. This is the walnut bowl that we turned green back on January the 9th, and then we boiled it and packed it in some shavings. One thing too about packing in shavings, and Carl Jacobson brought this up in a recent video he did, that you know, you need to turn those shavings every now and then, because what will happen is mold will build up and stuff like that. That's a point that I failed to mention in my video, but to keep mold and all from growing on your bowls and stuff, you need to flip those things at least for the first month or so, you know, until a lot of that moisture really gets gone. So anyway, make sure you do that or you get mold and stuff growing on your bowl. But we started out, and this bowl was 10 inches, if I remember right. Now, going with the grain, it's 9 3/4 right there. And it was exactly 10 inches diameter when we boiled it. But now across the grain, it's 9 1/4. I don't know if you can really see that, but it's 9 1/4 inch. So we've lost a little bit across the grain, you know, this way here. So, but it hasn't been really that much that we've lost. But I'm going to show you how I know that this bowl was cured, or not really cured, but it's seasoned. It's not losing any more weight, any more water weight, so it's ready. It's done all of its warping and everything itself that it's going to do. So now I can turn it with confidence that, you know, the bowl's not going to continue to lose moisture and start rocking and things like that when you set it down. I can get a good flat bottom on it, a good finish, and the bowl should remain true, you know, for as long as it's a bowl. Anyway, I'm going to show you right quick how I did that, and then we're going to chuck this thing up and we're going to turn a bowl out of it and get it finished up. If you missed the video on how we did that, I'm going to put a link to this video on here, so you can go back and watch that if you would like to. And let's get started on this thing. I'm anxious to see what it's going to look like. Okay, this is a walnut bowl that I did in the Bowls from Log series, and it's about ready to turn now. So the way I know this is, the way I know it's dry or cured, is I use this paper here, and I basically take weights of it at different times, and I just use a kitchen scale. You know, be kind of careful if you use a kitchen scale, because, you know, they have weight limits you don't want to exceed. This one here has an 11-pound weight limit, and then, so that's a big bowl. But this bowl here was a 10-inch bowl when we turned it on the lathe, and well, it weighed just over 3 pounds when it was first turned. So anyway, I'm going to show you how I do this. If you look, I believe you can see this. No, after you know, a couple of weeks or so, I start writing down the weight of this bowl, and once it loses once it loses weight down to the point where it's not losing weight anymore, I will put it on this scale, and that's how I test it. I'll just put it on the scale. I'm at 201.60. That's 2 pounds, 1 ounce, and then 0.60. I guess that's how they read it. But anyway, when I look here at this, my last two weights were the same weight. So I know that for the last week, this thing has not lost any moisture. Now this weight here will fluctuate up and down a little bit, you know, with the ambient moisture and stuff like that. I'm sure it will. But if I put that paper in there, well, the paper doesn't weigh enough to really change anything, but it measures back to like a thousandth of an ounce or something like that. But anyway, this bowl's ready to turn, so that's what we're going to be doing today. We're gonna turn this bowl, and it hasn't got any cracks in it or anything that I can see, but it was rough turned, and you know, if it does have cracks or something, we'll see them a little bit later. But anyway, we're going to get started on that now. I just wanted to show you how I know when a bowl is dry. Alright, for starters, I put my jam chuck in. Like I showed in a previous video, it's just a piece of dimensional lumber that I put a tenon on the back and true the face and the sides, and I put this cabinet liner on there. Mainly I put the cabinet liner on there as a grip, but it also protects finished bowls. So once I get done with this now, you'll see it again in a little while. But anyway, I've got this, I've got my center mark still marked from the last time. And if you notice, the tenon has elongated, or actually it's got smaller this way. So on the last video, I tried to make sure I cut this tenon. It was 2 1/4 inch diameter. Well, I knew it was going to shrink across the grain, so I needed it to be at least 1.5 inches when I finish, and it's at 2 inches right now, that direction, and 2 1/8 this direction. So when I true this up, I know it'll fit back in my jaws very well. It actually didn't shrink as much as I thought it would. But we're going to mount this back in, because the first thing I want to do is get the tenon trued up. Mount it back in, give it some pressure, and I'll probably go ahead and start shaping the outside of the bowl also, so I can come back in and shape the inside a little bit later. But we're going to go ahead and work on this tenon now, because it needs to be trued up to the outside of the bowl. Make sure you turn it. Okay, we should be good to go. Alright, let's see about getting this tenon trued up. I'm just going to try to do that with my bowl gouge. That's a 3/8 bowl gouge. I'm going to try to. One way you know that you're true is when you look at it and you see where you cut all the way around. All this is freshly cut wood. So now I'm just going to use my skew and square the shoulder up with the tenon. Okay, good square tenon. So I know my tenon's trued back up. However, it looks to be a little bit wide. I don't want to exceed 1/2 inch with this thing, and it's dead on 1/2 inch. I'm just going to go ahead and cut just a little bit off. I don't want that tenon sitting in the bottom of the bowl, in the bottom of my chuck. I'm just going to cut this down a little. Now I'm just going to start shaping on the bowl. Okay, got the outside is trued up with the tenon. I'm cutting good wood all the way around. So this side right here is ready for final shaping. And what I need to do too is look here. The top edge has warped a little bit, so I need to find that very top edge and mark it so I know that my shaping doesn't go above that. But anyway, I'm going to start shaping this thing. I've got her trued up now. I may try to take that little spot out, but actually it may look good in the bowl, but it's going to be gone here in a minute anyway. Okay. Let's see, right about there is going to be my, I believe right about here is going to be my top. Let's see if I can make sure that's good all the way. Okay, good. Alright, what I'll do there is I'll just take my skew and I'll go ahead and I'll cut that top edge out there. So that I know not to go past it. And I'm just going to start shaping. Continue on shaping, and then I'm going to start sanding. It's starting to look really nice though. I like all this color in the wood here. Is really looking good. If you remember, we were kind of concerned about boiling and the discoloration. Well, you see it's all gone now. Once you get past the surface, all that discoloration is gone. So by the time you get anything trued up, you're good to go. Alright, well I'll be back in just a minute. Okay, you notice I've got a little hole right here. A couple things I could do with that. I could fill it with sawdust and some super glue or something like that, or inlay, whatever. But I've got my top trued up now, and I've got my sides are trued up. What I'm going to try to do, I think I'm going to cut that out with a cove. I think a cove will look nice on this profile, and I'm just going to try that now. If it doesn't work, I'll have a smaller bowl. I like the way that looks. Okay, my spot's gone now. So, I'm good, trued up. Alright, I'm gonna do some shear scraping on here right quick and get this, try to get my tool marks out. I'm gonna speed the lathe up. Try to do some shear scraping. Okay, I've got everything scraped, and it's a very smooth surface already. But I'm going to go back now and start sanding. Excuse me. I'm going to start with 150 grit. I think that's what this is. Yes, 150. And anyway, I'm going to slow the lathe down and get started with that. Now you can see the grain runs this way here. I mean, basically the grain runs straight across just like that. So I'm just going to be going straight across. And you can see the lines here. I'm going to follow those lines. Sort of in like a circular motion. Just trying to knock out my sanding marks. You can see the sanding marks right there. Just knocking those out. And I'll be back. I'll take this all the way through 400 grit. And I'll be back when I get that done. Alright, well I've sanded up through 600 grit. I thought I'd go to 4, but they say this friction polish works better the higher your grit is. So I went to 600, which is the highest grit sandpaper that I have. Just wipe it off good with a paper towel. I'm going to start applying this friction polish. Sorry, I didn't mean to applying it until it doesn't absorb anymore. Until this is good and absorbed. Once it's absorbed in really good and I'm satisfied with the finish, then I will move on to the inside of the bowl. Alright, be back in a few minutes. Okay, I'm done with all the finish on the outside. It's nice and smooth. I've got it reverse mounted around on my chuck. So now I'm just going to go back and I'm going to hollow this out and do the same process I did on the outside with the sanding and all that. So we'll get started with that right now. I've got it trued up in there. So now I just want to check my depth. So I'm going to check below. Okay, I'm pretty good. It gets a little thinner here, so I need to watch out there. But as I come up here, I'm right at 5/8 thickness here. So I'm still good and thick. But I'm just going to be careful because I've got this cove here. I've got to kind of watch out for it. We'll switch over to my 3/8 gouge. And I'll just keep checking my thickness. I believe that's going to be really good. I don't want to go maybe 3/8. I don't want to go real thin on this. I'm getting really thin right there, which I'm about 3/8 there. So I need to come up, take a little bit out of here, and keep this thing about the same. But I'll be back once I get this shaped on the inside, and I'll get it sanded and finished, and we'll come back, we'll take the tenon off, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. Okay? Alright, well I've got it shaped. My thickness is good. Okay, I'm about 3/8 down here, and even, let me get between these jaws here, even here I'm good. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. That's about 3/8 to a 1/2 inch. I need it to be a little bit thicker on the bottom because I'm going to be concaving that. So I'm going to come in with my round nose scraper. I'm going to clean up the bottom, and I've already scraped up the sides with my bowl gouge, but I may end up coming back and doing some more because I'm going to do a little bit of something with this rim also. Here we go. That looks really good. Make sure you don't have a bulge in the middle. I've already got a chamfer here. I'm going to cut that back the other way. Give me another chamfer back this way. Just scraping up the side. Okay, I think I like that profile. Alright, well I'm just going to get with my sanding, and of course I'm going to sand with the grain. I don't have any lumps or anything in the bottom, so I'm good. I'm going to be sanding with the grain just like I did before, and I'll be back in a few minutes when I'm working on the finish. Okay, now it's time to put the finish on. I'll just saturate my paper towel pretty good with it. Okay, now all I've got left is to take off the tenon, and hopefully we'll have this all done. So you can see better. I need to get in that area. Maybe you can see and I can work. Putting a couple little decorative marks in here. Going to try to match this bevel angle right here. Match that angle with my tenon, and I'll start taking it off. Raise this up. It's going to start coming in. Just using my skew like a scraper. Until this angle right here matches my skew. That's as far as I can go. And I'll come in here and I'll start nibbling away. Okay, we're just finishing up sanding. Just got that finished up. That's 600 grit here. So anyway, now I'll just pull my tailstock back. And like I was saying before, this grain runs straight across here, so I can break this off. But if it was a had this been an end grain piece, you can't just break that off, because if you break it off, it can break off up inside there. But I've got this little bit right here I'm going to sand up, and then I'm going to sand it, and our bowl will be finished. I'll get some finish on the bottom. Be back in just a few minutes. Okay, well, just for your amusement, I'm going to try out my vacuum chuck. I've had several comments, people wanting to see my vacuum chuck working, and to tell you the truth, I've never used it. So we're all about to see it first. Going to see if it works. Basically, you know, I built this on YouTube. This is the one that I built. Thank you, Bob Hamilton, who wrote a comment reminding me that this out here needs to be sealed with some type of finish before it's used, because he built one and didn't put finish on it, and he had a hard time getting the suction, because actually it'll pull suction through this. So and he had no problem after he did it. So we'll see. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to line this up as best I can, because I've already cut the tenon off and I don't have a mark for the center. So I'm looking as close as I can get to the center, and I'm just bringing my tailstock up to sort of center it, and I'll turn my vacuum on. Give it a second or two to get the stick on there. Okay. Let it build up. Kind of stand back. Oh, that's not bad. Tail shot back. It seems to be turning okay. It could probably be a little more true, but what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to apply my finish on the bottom. I'm just going to use this, my friction polish. I hear air somewhere, but it seems to be holding pretty good. But we'll see once I start applying pressure. I was worried that my name would have came off with that alcohol. It's alright, it stayed on. So we're just going to put this polish on. And I am applying fairly good pressure. Get another coat. I'm going to refresh the finish up the side. Just to see how that does. I can actually apply pressure a little bit on the outside. I'm not saying I trust it. I do kind of like it. I like having a vacuum truck, even though I've never used it. Yeah, see, it's still holding. There it went. I like it a lot. Oh, man. That's just something, you know, people had been asking to see how the vacuum truck worked. Now, I didn't do any cuts with it or anything like that, but, you know, I'll do that some other time. But I wanted to try it here. I had to put my finish on, and I thought I would just try that vacuum truck and maybe let you guys see my first time at it. Well, alright. Here we are again. At the end of another project. Actually, this is the end of the series, from the logs to the bowls series. I tried to cover the way that I do things throughout the whole process, and of course, you know, you may find that your process is a little different, and that's great. Your process may be a lot different, but I've enjoyed doing this. Starting with that nice walnut log that the guy at work gave me, and cutting it down into blanks and roughing it out. This is the bowl we roughed out. This is also the bowl that we boiled. And it was January the 9th, and today, well, it's March the 5th now, so I don't know. That's, I'm going to say about almost 2 months. Almost 2 months of drying time that it had out here in the shop in a bag of shavings, and I think it really turned out nice. The way I knew it was dry was I weighed it on my kitchen scales, and that's the only truly good way that I know to figure out if something's dry or not, is to weigh it. Once it stops losing water weight, it'll be very consistent, probably within a few hundredths of an ounce, you know, from day to day or whatever. But I know this bowl's dry. There's no doubt in my mind, and now it's good and sealed up. Should never have any problem with this bowl trying to warp or crack or anything. We boiled it. There's no cracks. There was some warpage, of course, but not as much as on a non-boiled bowl. But anyway, it was a good project. I enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed that series. I'll try to leave links on the video to the others. You got to see the first use of my vacuum chuck that I made. It's I like the way it works. I'm going to play with it some and see just what type of pressures I can put on it and things like that, just to, you know, because I don't trust them, to tell you the truth. But that went very well, and it was stuck pretty hard. So I believe I can probably make finishing cuts and final cuts and sanding and stuff like that, and I may try that next time. But anyway, there it is, a bowl from logs. See you next time. Y'all have a good evening.